Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the annual DC Fire Awards event. I'm Sarah Gilgore, editor for DC Inno, and I also cover innovation and healthcare for the Washington Business Journal, which is the sister publication to DC Inno. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. This time last year, some of you might remember, we gathered virtually, and I don't think we necessarily expected that we'd be virtual again this year, but we knew it was important to bring attention to the people driving innovation in the DC Metro over the last 12 months. So we're very excited to be here with you today. And we're thrilled to showcase our 2021 Fire winners. This year's honorees range from young to mature across industry and geography within the DMV. So these are companies that closed new rounds of funding, launched new products, reinvented themselves, and not only have survived the pandemic, but also many have helped others through the crisis as well. And now many of them are hiring, expanding, promoting equity, and elevating the local startup ecosystem in different ways. And that's why these companies and these people are all on fire. So we hope that you enjoyed this event. It's an opportunity to look back on what these amazing people, organizations, and companies have accomplished over the last year. And it's also a chance to look forward and kind of explore everything that they have on deck. So I want to thank our sponsors, without whom this event would not be possible. They have all stuck with us through these difficult times and continue to show their support for the DC innovation community. So thank you to our gold partners, Accenture and Appian. Before we light the fire, for anyone unfamiliar with us and what we do, Inno is part of a growing network of sites. We're currently in 19 markets and will be in more than 44 by the end of September. In DC, as many of you might know, we've been covering the ecosystem since 2012, so it's not the newest of the markets, but we do that through stories, profiles, our twice a week newsletter, The Beat, and events like this one. So you can check us out at dcinno.com and see what we're all about. And if you're interested in innovation across the country, stay tuned on that as well, because we'll have national innovation coverage available soon. So before we reveal our blazers, I want to give you just a little more info on Fire and why you're here and what we're all talking about today. So in the past 9 years since Inno's official debut, we've worked to showcase the people, companies, and trends that are transforming Greater Washington into a burgeoning innovation and startup hub. And so we're pleased to introduce our 2021 class of Fire winners to really celebrate the businesses, the enterprises, the innovators who are doing special work in this space and really deserve the recognition. To find them, we asked our audience to submit nominations, and then from that list, we pulled together a roster. And using those names and also our market intelligence, which comes from hundreds of stories and conversations in the community, we assembled a list of 50 Fire honorees for this year. But we also are singling out some of those players, awarding them the Blazer title. So that is a special designation given to the top companies or people that are blazing new paths and shining the brightest in each of their categories. And these blazers were selected by an esteemed panel of judges. So among those judges were Tommy White, Interim Director of American University's Center for Innovation at the Kogut School of Business, Shahir Ramen, Senior Regional Partnership Specialist with General Assembly, Erin Fristoe, Director of Talent and Community Engagement with Research Innovations, Jonathan Aberman, Dean of Marymount University's School of Business and Technology, David Lang, Program Manager of Georgetown University's Entrepreneurship Initiative in the McDonough School of Business, Vandana Sinha, Editor-in-Chief of the Washington Business Journal, Andy Medici, who was formerly the Money and Tech reporter at the Business Journal and now senior reporter for our national content team at American City Business Journals, and myself. And we are also now going to drop a link to the full list of Fire winners into the chat now, so you can add to your own list of the people that you need to know in this area. So now please allow me to announce the Blazer winner for each category. We will have a post also on DC Inno later today to share more on them, so keep an eye out for that. In the lifestyle category, the blazer is Remodel Mate. In the B2B category, Morning Consult. In the MedTech category, BrainScope. In the healthcare category, Somatis. In the biotech and life sciences category, Cerneomics. In the cybersecurity, software, and IT category, IDMe. In the InnoPix category, MemoryWell, and a few more. In the community leaders category, the blazer is Shelley Bell of Black Girl Ventures. In the venture category, we have Ardent Venture Partners. And finally, in the consumer tech category, the blazer winner is Moto Refi. Congratulations again to our blazers and all of our honorees for this year. And now for the fun part, we're going right into our Future of Innovation panel. So allow me to introduce our moderator today. She was one of our blazer judges and she knows the drill pretty well at this point. She's a 2019 Fire honoree and a blazer winner herself. Please welcome Erin Fristoe, Director of Talent and Community Engagement at Research Innovations Incorporated. Erin, you can come on camera and take it away for the panel.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everybody, and congratulations to all of the honorees and blazer winners today. As Sarah mentioned, I am a 2019 blazer and moderating the panel today. First, I'd like to just introduce a little bit about the company that I work for, Research Innovations, known as RII. RII is on a quest to prove that national security industry doesn't have to be slow and stuffy. We know that complex global challenges and the world faces today require true innovation and can only come from a creative and empowered team made up of all sorts of people from all sorts of places. I often say that we bridge the gap between hipster millennial developers and retired military veterans. We have offices in Virginia, Texas, and Florida, as well as staff embedded with customers around the world. RII supports critical defense, intelligence, and cyber customers across the US government and with international customers like Canada and the UK. Our core mission is to harness the talents and passions of vibrant, diverse, and curious communities to shape the future with thoughtful technology innovations for a free and secure world. And sometimes achieving that mission means sending engineers to embed with customers so we can work truly together and understand their challenges. And if that means that they need a Hawaiian shirt with a cat mascot on it to get the job done, we rise to that occasion. Sometimes it means Mario Kart tournaments with our interns because they talk a big game and we don't want them to go unchallenged. We're always hiring. So please feel free to check out our website if any of that sounds interesting to you. But on to the reason why we're really here today, to listen to some insights from our esteemed panel. And so if the panel would like to go ahead and turn on their cameras, I'll go ahead and introduce each person. We have today Melanie Akwule from MINWO Inc., Dahna Goldstein, Chief Investment Officer at Halcyon, Sally Allain, Head JLABS Washington, DC of Johnson & Johnson Innovation, and Nathaniel Jackson, CEO of TrueAlgae. And so we've got a number of questions and talking points we want to get through today, and we'll go through, and please feel free as you're watching, if you're interested in adding a question, just go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll try to get to everything that we can. First, we want to start with acknowledging that obviously we can't start one of these without saying how it's been a tough year and a half for most people. And, you know, our organizations and personal life would be no exception in general. And so each of these companies has had success despite the odds. And so I'm going to go through and introduce each person and ask each person to tell us a little bit about what you do, your company, some of the big milestones you've had the last year, and what your secret was to thriving during this. And so Melanie, I'd like to start with you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm Melanie Akwule, founder and CEO at MINWO, where we are centralizing Black business development. Essentially, we're providing community as a service to programs and organizations that have a focus to help support, develop, and scale Black businesses. And yes, the last year and a half has been a whirlwind, to say the least, just both personally and professionally. But being able to weather the storm, have our team continue to grow despite the circumstances, having gotten into an accelerator program like Techstars over the last year, and to be able to connect over 100 Black businesses with funding and development support all through the craziness has been a great honor. So thanks, and I look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you, Melanie. Dahna.
Thanks so much, Erin, and thank you for leading us through this panel. And it's an honor to be here. Congratulations to my fellow FIRE awardees. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Halcyon. We're a nonprofit that is based in Georgetown, and we fuel the entrepreneurs whose ideas are driving the world forward. We have run an incubator since 2014 that incubates some of the most promising impact-driven ventures from around the world. And this last year has certainly been incredibly challenging on a number of levels. We run a residential program. People actually come and live in the house that we work in Georgetown for the time that they're in the incubator. We pivoted, as every organization did, to manage to do things virtually and to maintain the quality of our programming. And we're really proud that we were able to give the fellows who participated in our programs a really great experience over the course of the last year and a half, despite fairly adverse conditions. And just to kind of give you a little bit more of a sense of Halcyon in general, since 2014, we have helped the ventures that have come through our incubators raise over $180 million. They've created over 2,300 jobs. They've positively impacted nearly 3 million lives. And having that focus on impact-driven business has really been core to the way that we do things. We believe that impact-driven businesses outperform. And a couple of highlights from 2020. Again, obviously 2020 and the start of this year have been very challenging due to COVID, but also due to the economic crisis that has resulted due to heightened awareness of racial inequality in this country and a desire to try to move things in the right direction due to an ongoing climate crisis that we've been in the midst of for a while, and we still need to make some improvements. In the course of that, a couple of highlights, we created what we call our Opportunity Intensive. So it's a program that it exists in a hybrid model. It's part virtual, and then as conditions allow, we call our social entrepreneurs fellows. They come and live in the house for a week for intensive programming. The Opportunity Intensive that we created last year is specifically for entrepreneurs who live in, work in, or primarily serve opportunity zones. Now, opportunity zones that are controversial for a number of reasons, but we really see it as a proxy for identifying entrepreneurs who historically have not had access to the same opportunity as others. And we're really working on bringing capital, bringing opportunity, bringing the support that we bring to other entrepreneurs to that unique group of entrepreneurs, some of whom are downstairs doing programming right at the moment. One other quick thing, we actually launched an angel network last year. So one of the things that we heard very clearly from entrepreneurs who have come through our programs is that access to mission-aligned early stage capital is critical for them and also can be a little bit challenging to come by. So perhaps launching an angel network in the midst of a global pandemic is not what we would have planned for. But we really found that the convergence of these crises and heightened awareness of these crises is helping investors to rethink, at least some investors, to rethink how they're allocating their resources and to see that businesses that are tackling some of these issues are not only doing great things for the world, but also great investments as well. So in our first year, we invested nearly $750,000 in impact-driven businesses, and we're excited to keep that going. And looking forward to talking with all of you more.
Thank you so much, Dahna. Sally.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's so great to be with these other awardees and with just what we've heard, these incredible organizations that are thriving and really driving this innovation ecosystem. It's been really a great pleasure to get connected more with you and be part of this. So let me tell you a little bit about Johnson & Johnson Innovation and JLABS at Washington, D.C. So our mission at J&J Innovation is really to curate and cultivate the world's most promising early stage healthcare innovation wherever it originates. We look for thriving ecosystems The district and the DMV is a thriving ecosystem of both entrepreneurship and early stage companies. It's thriving when we look at future investments. It's thriving when we look at total NIH funding for scientists and technologists. And we really know these ideas can come from anywhere, and we know to drive innovation, we can't just do it within the walls of J&J. We need to do it externally, and we need to do that and meet companies where they are. So, we really leverage our scientific and commercialization expertise to work with entrepreneurs with the goal to help them move their science and technology forward and into really life-changing solutions. So J&J Innovation is a diverse group of scientists and technology experts, and we work through flexible, customized partnership models and collaborations. JLABS at Washington, D.C. is an incubator. So we want to incubate companies, provide services, mentorship, investor hubs, resources, at a really low to no cost for companies so that they can come into our incubator, have access to an infrastructure, have access to expertise, and move their science and technology forward faster. And then we also make strategic investments into the companies that we incubate and that we partner with as well. So again, we really want to drive and make these connections. And fortunately here in DC, we've partnered with Children's National on their new Innovation and Research Campus, recognizing the need for more pediatric innovation. So we are looking to bring a light and really drive this ecosystem, this innovation campus. JLABS at Washington, D.C. is a 13th incubator for J&J Innovation. We're all over the United States. We're also an international footprint. So as companies come in, not only are they thriving within local ecosystems, like the one here that we opened in April this year, but they also get connected into this global ecosystem of companies and really make strong connections and potential partnerships. We incubate currently over 300 companies within JLABS, and we have partnering deals with more than 200 companies. So Johnson & Johnson partnering. I think what's really unique for us is we're no strings attached. So companies incubate with us and we don't take equity and we don't take IP. And I think that's a really important value proposition for entrepreneurs and companies. So some other things that we did this year, not only do we open the doors and start moving companies in, because we do have a rolling acceptance into our incubator, but we announced Blue Night, which is a partnership with BARDA. So Johnson & Johnson Innovation JLABS and BARDA is partnering to really support innovation in mutual areas of interest so that we can respond with new therapies and vaccines and technology to our next health threats and potential next pandemic. So the Blue Night Hub is here at Washington, D.C. at JLABS. We also, working with the DC Mayor's Office.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
We announced a quickfire challenge. So it's an health innovation quickfire challenge with the Mayor's Office and the Deputy Mayor of Planning and Economic Development. And so this will award entrepreneurs and early stage companies that aim to address chronic healthcare morbidity issues, maternal mortality, and it's non-dilutive grant funding, and it's also residency here at JLABS at Washington, D.C. So we're incredibly excited for this opportunity, and we'll be announcing those awardees soon.
Wonderful. And Sally, quick question. Did you find a direct correlation this past year between rise in applicants to the labs in conjunction with everything that was going on with Johnson & Johnson, with vaccines and things like that?
Yeah, interestingly, we've seen an increase in applications across our JLAB sites. We also support.
I don't know what you mean by we announced a quick fire challenge.
We also, my phone knows me really well. We supported companies during COVID. We never closed our doors, our incubators. We financially supported 200 companies. We had 60 companies pivot to address COVID therapies and platform technology needs. So yeah, we did, and we also saw an increase in applications and in companies working in areas of pandemic response and also technology that could potentially, be really important with when we consider the next health threats in the future.
Excellent, thank you. And Nathaniel Jackson, CEO of TrueAlgae.
Let's see. Thanks, Erin, for having me. It's really exciting to be here with the Business Journal and see what the Business Journal and the Innovation Network is doing on a national basis, helping to build out local innovation hubs. So I'm Nathaniel Jackson, the CEO of TrueAlgae. A little bit about us. We have a unique and innovative IP, which enables us to manufacture algae in bulk in a very extremely efficient manner. You can see the vertical photobioreactor behind me. We can harvest up to 50% every single day, and we have 70% gross margins. Our first vertical market for our algae product is organic biofertilizer with a global market size of over $10 billion. Our product is 100% organic. It works with nature as opposed to chemical fertilizers, which currently dominate the market, while returning higher yields per acre. We also help the environment by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Our product does not emit any nitrous oxide into the atmosphere, and we reduce toxic nitrogen runoffs into the waterways because there's no nitrogen in our products. So we really are very environmentally focused as well. In terms of milestones, despite COVID and all the challenges with that, we were able to increase our sales by 60% last year. We expanded into multiple international markets, as well as new crops. Our initial focus has been in the fruit and vegetable sectors, but we're also now doing tests in various different row crops like soybeans and corn. So we're expanding what we're looking into. We've raised roughly $5 million to date, so we're very grateful to our investors for their faith in our ability to execute and to grow in this very exciting sector. We're focusing a lot of those funds on increasing our research and development, which is key to this exciting field of biologicals, which are the world is starting to recognize the need to move away from chemical fertilizers and more into natural, organic, and biological products. So we're very excited to be in this space, and we devote a lot of our resources to learning more about the R&D, and then following up, obviously, with intellectual property based on that research and development. So we're really excited to be talking today about innovation and the DC area. We love being in the DC area, and more than happy to talk with the other panelists about this topic.
Wonderful, thank you. Nathaniel, while you're at it, I'm wondering, is there one thing in particular, you're talking about your R&D and growth over the next few years, is there something specific on your roadmap that you're very excited about, that you're looking you could share with us today?
Sure, it's not one thing in particular, but we are looking very much at the impact of why our product works. What's fascinating to me now being in the space for 4 or 5 years is how complex the microbiome is in the soil environment. So what our product does essentially, it interacts and enhances the microbial diversity within the soil structure, which then helps the root structure and ultimately the plants. What's fascinating is, unlike chemicals where you can see immediately a reaction, it takes a little bit of time for the biological diversity to impact the plant and root structure. So we're doing a lot of research with leading edge universities as well as private sector companies looking at the genome and biome structure. And that's where we're really focusing our activities now.
Excellent. Melanie, same question for you. I'm interested to hear what you're looking at for your roadmap, being one of the newer companies and obviously very much impacted by so much over the course of the last 10 months, 18 months, years. What does that translate into, your next couple of years?
Yeah, for certain. I think for me, it's the idea that with technology, you can go further faster. And so, last year with, what I call Black Lives Matter Part 2 really erupting and shaking the nation, we had a lot of opportunities to support Black businesses manually throughout the year. There are many companies that pledged, funds to Black businesses and resources to Black businesses. And now that most immediately we're launching our platform September 20th, we'll be able to do that work at scale so that it's not so much, emails back and forth and creating manual events, but being able to give founders and Black business owners the opportunity to discover the organizations, the programs, the capital, the resources that are looking for them. So that's what I'm most thrilled about. And the team is gearing up for that in about a month. But then beyond that, just being able to then turn around to some of these organizations that have pledged these dollars and say, hey, we have a platform for you to be able to deploy that capital in one fell swoop, and then also figure out how we can create transparency and accountability around that. So really just trying to take the work that we're doing and scale that.
Scaling, always a fun challenge in the early parts, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sally, something from your roadmap that you'd like to share?
Yeah, we're excited certainly to continue to build this campus, continually to bring companies into JLABS at Washington, DC. And then, I think we've been pretty vocal about really wanting to be committed to innovation in underrepresented populations like DC, but also globally. And so, we are supporting not only local entrepreneurs that are bringing solutions to underserved patients and consumers, but we're also bringing companies into this region from other locations. Some great examples on two of our companies. So Kept Health is a local first-time entrepreneur. Sheena Franklin is working on an AI-driven platform technology to engage patients with dermatologists first, and really working on the challenges with skin of color and underrepresentation of and access to health dermatology. And then also Acclinate. So Del Smith and Tiffany Whitlow are expanding and scaling here in the district and the area. Their platform technology coming up from Alabama, and they're working hard on driving diversity in clinical trials. So this is forefront for us. I think it's incredibly important for us as we think about driving innovation here in the DMV region as well. So I'm really excited to keep working on that.
Great. Thanks, Sally. Dahna, I'm going to ask you the same question, and then we're going to pop over to a question that came up in the chat. But Dahna, anything on your roadmap coming up that you would like to share?
Thanks, Erin. A couple of things. Like Sally, we're really, and JLABS, we're really leaning into fostering innovation and making sure that we're helping to bring resources to innovation where it's happening. And doing that in a couple of ways. Applications actually opened yesterday for 3 of our programs for our flagship residential incubator, which is a 5-month program that'll be happening from February, starting in February next year. The 2022 Opportunity Intensive, and a new fellowship for entrepreneurs from Sub-Saharan Africa that we will be running in partnership with AWS. And we'll be running that next year as well. So in terms of sourcing innovation and really helping to support innovation where it's happening, we're really excited to be able to connect with entrepreneurs from the DC area and also entrepreneurs from around the world. Additionally, like I think a number of other organizations, we are really trying to find ways to close capital gaps. We've gotten increasingly excited about not only leveraging our existing vehicles and channels, but exploring new vehicles to be able to bring different types of capitals different types of capital to meet entrepreneurs where they are. So we have a couple of things underway that I will look forward to sharing as they become a little bit more fully formed.
Great, thank you. So question from the audience here from Danny is, where did it go? How would the panel view apprenticeship programs as a pipeline for growing their companies? Anybody want to tackle this one?
I can jump in here. as I have actually hired from apprenticeship programs or like boot camps and things like that. For me, especially in this world where we're working toward being more inclusive, the background doesn't matter as much for me personally in how I hire. It's more so what characteristics and what traits do you bring to the table? You can learn just about anything on the job. And so for me, having those programs where they're giving people new skills, new tool sets, especially to people that are passionate and looking for a way to get into the field for a startup that's on the newer side with limited funds, it's been a really great opportunity for us. And an organization that we recently partnered with, Generation USA, is an organization that is helping us do that. So we're actually bringing on 10 new interns this fall through that partnership. So I think it's a wonderful idea, Danny.
Great. There you go, Danny. Check out the website. As you source companies for your programs, how are you engaging with early stage investors, i.e. Zeal Capital Partners in DC? I think that's to all of the panelists. If anybody in particular wants to jump into that one.
Yeah,
I'm happy to. Sorry, go ahead, Sally.
Yeah, so as we have a global investor hub, and that's, we really work with our investors in that investor hub and really collate companies with their strategic interests in mind. And then on the flip side, we work with companies and entrepreneurs, so they're prep ready to meet with investors. They have those relationships in place before they need funding or they go through a funding round. So when we think here locally, we are out connecting with investors here and building our local investor hub. Again, it's also a no strings attached. We want to create this ecosystem. We certainly want to bring more investors into this ecosystem. I think it's an untapped ecosystem of opportunities. And so how we can facilitate those engagements, those meetings, it's a part of our business model.
Thanks. Dahna, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was going to provide a very similar response, actually, but I also really wanted to congratulate Nasir and Zeal Capital Partners on their incredible raise and what they're bringing to the ecosystem. We at Halcyon are really, really excited about the prospect of partnering with other players in the ecosystem, both from an incubator perspective and also bringing investment capital to bear. We really see engaging with folks like Zeal Capital, with JLABS as ways to really create a rising tide that has the potential to lift all boats in the innovation and investment arenas in DC. So in terms of everything from deal flow, as we see great companies that are coming through our programs, we really want to be able to introduce them to investors as we're investing in companies, either those that have come through our programs or others, being able to co-invest with other folks in the ecosystem. So I'm really excited to have more of these conversations and to build more of an open network within the DC region so that we can all really do what we're trying to do here, which is build the ecosystem, get capital and resources to the companies that are creating the most change from whatever lens you're looking at it with, but also make sure that we're doing that in a way that is as inclusive as it should be, and bringing capital to innovation where it's happening.
And that actually hits very closely on one of the next questions we had, where we talk about the ecosystem here in DC for some of this innovation, but looking more at the culture of innovation. And so over the course of the last few years, DC has obviously risen to prominence in terms of being recognized as an innovative hub compared to some of the other cities that traditionally are always recognized, right? And so one of the questions we wanted to talk about today is, what are the things that DC is doing well in terms of the innovative culture ecosystem, and then where can the DC community improve? Nathaniel, thoughts there?
Sure. Well, we feel like that innovation is really key to our whole success. And so we start at home by rewarding curiosity and the innovation of our team. We share academic articles, we invest in R&D and IP. But in terms of community, part of that is just reaching out to universities. We've got a great university, in DC, Maryland, Virginia, that you can tap into. It's a great network for grants in this area. So It's a matter of just getting out there and going to, reaching out to a number of universities, as well as going to various different sessions at incubators, because incubators throughout the region have a lot of different, panelists and discussions, and you can meet a lot of people and share ideas that way. In ways in which the community can improve, I think it's slightly unfortunate that we are somewhat fractured in having 3 different communities in the DC general area. We have DC, Maryland, Virginia, and sometimes you have to reach out to each one of those communities individually, as opposed to having more of a connected forum.
Yeah, I think that absolutely captures a lot of that. Any additional thoughts from the rest of the panel on that particular topic?
Yeah, I think in healthcare, certainly biotech, farm, consumer med device, we're really working, the key stakeholders in the region here are really working really hard across the DMV to build on what Nathaniel just mentioned, and that's that connectivity. If we are going to, keep that momentum and keep really building this ecosystem, we all have to work together, and we're all committed to work together. I think all of our organizations have different strategic interests, and working across, working with TEDCO, working with BioHealth Innovation, working with Virginia Bio and CIT and all these investors, we're really creating and certainly working to work across that network, because I think that's incredibly important. Because if a company's not accepted into J&J Innovation JLABS, we will still want to keep this ecosystem thriving, drive the economic development, so we can bypass Boston, and the talent is here, the early stage investing is here, non-dilutive. Now we just need the capital to increase here, and people really need to start taking a risk in companies. We have to start thinking outside the box more. We have to start taking bigger risks in companies with diverse CEOs and have diverse platform technologies. And I'll challenge our partners at the economic office with the deputy mayor. Like, let's do more here in DC. This campus here, the Research and Innovation Campus, is an opportunity zone. Children's National has done an incredible job. We're open for business, but I think there's more things we can do and wrap around entrepreneurs and innovators to keep them in the district. And whether that's through grant opportunities, I think we can do a lot more.
Great, thanks. It actually hits very, very soundly on the next question that I was going to ask you. So thank you for getting there. Melanie, most of us are still working from home. Everybody can see my wall of kids and wedding pictures and things behind me. With networking and community connections being so important to founders like yourself, what's your advice to those who are looking to connect, find mentors, partners, customers, investors, resources, all of the things, doing it from home? Best advice there.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's an introvert's dream world, and I lean a little bit closer to the introvert side. I used to live in the Bay Area, now live in DC. Hit the pavement, trying to go to events and meet people that way. And what I found with now everything being digital, it's a lot easier, at least for me, to feel open to knock on someone's virtual door, right? Leaving a LinkedIn message. Even on Twitter, I've had my first investor actually came through Twitter, a random slide in the DMs. I think having that much more access has really changed the game for creative founders. Virtual events, meeting people across the country that you wouldn't have had a chance to meet with, investors, peers, potential employees, potential mentors, just really, kind of knocking on those doors, as I mentioned. And then also for me, I'm also really big on connecting with peers, right? So reaching back into my network and saying, hey, I need a data scientist for this algorithm I'm trying to build. That's actually how I brought on one of my first team members. They were just interested in working on the project. So it's not always about networking up, but also networking out and making sure that you're kind of looking around to see who in your network is doing what, might be interested in any aspect of what you have going on. So I think with, you know, the world being more connected via these digital means, it really gives you an opportunity to take advantage of that a little bit more.
Yeah. Nathaniel, it looked like you were going to add something, or
Yeah, I think it's very important for it to have a entrepreneurial home base. We actually started in Baltimore with IMET and kind of migrated to Bethesda Green, which once again speaks of the going across borders because we're actually Virginia based. But I think it's very important to find an entrepreneurial community where you feel at home, you can share your intellectual ideas, share your struggles as being startup entrepreneurs, which are always inevitable, make connections. Usually these entrepreneurial home bases, as I'm calling, have regular meetings of one sort or another, and they can help you with expanding your network. So I really urge startup founders to look for kind of a home base, whether it's part of an incubator like the JLABS, or it's just to find a place where you can talk to fellow entrepreneurs on a non-competitive basis, and you can help each other, because we really do have to help each other build our respective companies, because it's really hard to get a company up and running.
Yep. Thank you so much. So Dahna, it says here on my notes that none of us have crystal balls. I bet some people out there do, but I don't know how valuable they are. How do you think the DC area will fare this year? We've seen an influx of capital going to local startups, and I think that's even represented well by our 50 on Fire list, right? I think a lot of those honorees have seen that value. The more VCs in the region raising funding, do you expect that pace will continue? Might we see an influx of new startups as we have across the nation? What does your crystal ball show?
My crystal ball has been notoriously unreliable, so I'm not sure I want to cite to it too much. Yeah, it has a bit of like a magic 8-ball sort of quality to it. It gives me very definitive answers that have not proven to be totally accurate. You know, my perspective on this, I started my first company in DC in 2004, and DC, the region, the ecosystem has changed, I would say, pretty significantly since then. In ways that I think are probably something of an unstoppable force. You know, DC has tremendous access to talent. There is no shortage of incredible ideas, no shortage of incredible people. One of the things that had been missing and where there's still room for improvement is on the capital side of things, but we're seeing that move in the right direction. I think there's still work to be done in terms of you know, facilitating pipelines, in terms of ensuring that there's follow-on capital that will keep companies in the region, in terms of ensuring that there are incentives that will keep companies in the region, so there's an opportunity to engage with local government as well. But as more capital is coming into the region, it tends to attract more startups. More innovative startups tend to attract more capital. So I feel like, and again, leaving crystal ball aside, I feel like there's a bit of a snowball that we've been gradually working towards that has something of an inevitability to it, which is really exciting to me. I think we're on a really positive trajectory. So, you know, we can check back in a year and see how things ended up. But I do think that we are on a really encouraging and positive trajectory towards increasing innovation, ongoing innovation, more capital in the region, more companies locating here because of the things that are unique to this region, and then the supporting ecosystem, including capital to build up the ecosystem that much further. And my hope is that we have all gotten to a point where we're really committed to doing all of that with an overlay of an equity lens that I think just has to be part of how we do things as sort of the normal course of business going forward. So I do think so, and I'm excited to be part of it and watch it happen over the next little while.
Awesome. I'm still monitoring the chat questions right now, so if folks in the audience have questions, now's the time to get it in. In the meantime, I want to go through with each of you and get what your key takeaway would be to leave the audience with today. So who's ready to go first? And who wants a minute to think?
I can start. I think, we've all touched on the importance of relying on a diverse network. I think that's really important for innovators, early stage companies, entrepreneurs, tap into the resources that are available. The DC right now, this more small business relief they're providing, the non-dilutive grant opportunities they're providing through the Quickfire Challenge. This is all sort of starting that snowball that Dahna was just talking about. And I think, let's keep doing more of that in DC. Let's really make sure these companies in this ecosystem are going to be, successful. And the other thing I think what we've all experienced this year is just connectivity and compassion with empathy. It's been a challenging year. So I think reach out whenever you can across your network.
Thank you, Sally. Nathaniel, key takeaway.
Build on your entrepreneurial home base. It's a great source of emotional support, intellectual support. I'd also try to tap into the universities. We've got a lot of really great innovative universities, within 100 miles of DC. So we've tapped into those ourselves to try to learn and also do a number of our R&D studies. We've also gotten grants from CIT to help support those types of activities. But if we are going to be innovative, we have to be on the leading edge. And I think the universities are sometimes an untapped resource when it comes to finding leading edge, solutions to our problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Dahna, key takeaway.
I think my key takeaway is that crisis creates opportunity, and it's been really inspiring to watch how the DC ecosystem, some of that represented by folks on this panel and by the fire awardees, have responded to create opportunity out of really, really challenging times. And companies that can not only survive but thrive during challenging times are those that are going to be really well positioned going forward. One of the things that we found as well is that there's more thought being given to how businesses are operating, not just what they're doing, but how they're operating in the world. And we think that having an impact focused, having a social and environmental responsibility focus, building that into companies, even if that's not the core of their mission, is something that's not only going to continue to drive innovation, but continue to build the ecosystem and build the region for years to come. And excited to see how that evolves.
All right, and Melanie, it looks like you get the final takeaway for the day.
Yeah, I think for me, I would just say do not underestimate what can change in a year. This time last year, I had a team of 6. We're now at 15. I had significantly less funding than I did this time last year than I do now. Having moved from the Bay to the DMV, just tapping into this ecosystem and the network that's out here, literally things can change overnight. Going from, is this going to work out, or to, it's just a matter of time for it to work out. So really, every day is an opportunity to create impact, to make a change, to fundamentally change the future of your business. So I'll leave you with that.
Awesome. Thank you to the entire panel today, and congratulations again on your honorees. Sarah, we are running a little bit ahead of time. Do you want me to tell jokes for a few minutes, or do we want to go ahead and switch it over? I want to switch it over.
Happy to hop in, but that was an amazing panel, unsurprisingly. Thank you so much, Erin, for moderating, and all of our panelists for your insights and perspectives, and to our audience for joining us for this discussion. I imagine we could probably go for another few hours, but people have places to be, so we can wrap it up. I did just want to mention that you can learn more about our honorees and all that they're doing at dcinno.com, and keep an eye out for today's Beat newsletter, which will have more and a story about the event later this afternoon. And you can subscribe to the Beat on our website. You've also probably noticed that we've been ramping up lately as a company, and that's because we found that the more markets we're in, the better we can serve our local community. So for instance, if you're a logistics company here, you can now be connected through us to logistics focused VC firms in Richmond or Atlanta or Chicago. Or if you're working on blockchain in the DMV, we know the blockchain accelerators in Boston and Austin and Tampa. So really beyond telling stories and hosting events like this, we're also in the business of making connections. So with that, please reach out if there's anyone local or in one of our other markets that you'd like to meet or learn more about, and we'll do our best to make that connection. And also, like any growth company, we rely very much on your feedback to get better. So if there's anything you want to see more of or less of, definitely let us know, be in touch with me or anyone from our team. And again, congratulations to all of the FIRE honorees and Blazer winners, and a big final thank you to our amazing event sponsors, Accenture and Appian. Check them out in all of the ways that they're helping to support the community. So I think that's it. Thank you all so much for being here, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Erin. Bye.